Hello and welcome to Investing Sense. My name is Jake Szulinski and I am a financial advisor right here in Wayne, Pennsylvania. On Investing Sense, what we really try to do is involve our local community in matters of finance and bring some education. And what bigger part of finance than talking about your job, your career? And today with me, I have a special guest, Kasper from Monarch Staffing. Laura, thank you for being with us today.
It's exciting to be here. Thank you, Jake.
Well, I'm sure it's exciting to be here, but it's also probably been a pretty wild and exciting ride over the last 12 to 24 months during this COVID thing that we've all been going through.
It has been. There's been lots of changes.
Yeah, especially in your world. So I want to start by, first of all, tell us about yourself. Tell us about Monarch Staffing and tell us about yourself. How did this company get started? How did you get started? And what is it all about?
Okay. So I've had Monarch for 20 years. It has been an exciting ride. I'm from Westchester area, went to Westchester University and really loved the business and wanted to start one of my own. So I've had Monarch for 20 years. It's been really great.
That's
and what we do is we are a locally owned boutique staffing firm in the Philadelphia region, and we help employers and job seekers find the right fit.
Okay.
So primarily what we do is we staff in the administrative, customer service, sales, human resources, accounting, light industrial, and some IT area.
Pretty wide-reaching.
Yeah.
And you said you have both sides of the equation. So you help employers, but you also help
job seekers,
prospective employees.
Absolutely. We're out in the job market and we just celebrated, we were at a Career Link Day just last week where we were helping job seekers with resume advice, how to find a job, how to interview. So we're out in the community. We're very local and we're really in the community helping job seekers try to get back into the workforce and find the right fit.
That's great. That's great. So let's kind of start from the beginning here. You've had the company for 20 years, but obviously the last couple of years have been uncharted territory for everyone.
Definitely.
So what are you guys seeing? What's going on in the staffing world from both sides? We'll talk about the employers and the employees. What do we see that's changed?
So from the employer side, especially with the pandemic, there's been a lot of changes about the how in which we work.
Okay.
Employers are looking at their workforce and they're even looking at their job postings a lot differently now. So before, they didn't even come into play whether this could be a remote role or not. So now employers are looking at, is this a remote role? Is this a hybrid role, or does this have to be in the job, in the office type of a job, or on the floor, on a labor floor? Right. So the way in which employers are looking to bring people back is changing.
Sure.
And they're also looking at traditionally the 9 to 5. People work 9 to 5 or they work second shift. That's changing too. So it's not just about where we're working, but how we're working. And I think employers today are being more flexible, and it's all about managing the expectations on the output and not managing so much of the input. And I think those that are really embracing that mindset, employer side, are really going to be the ones that are going to be growing and gaining momentum in the forefront, because employees, what we're hearing and why employees are looking, I just heard a statistic from the American Staffing Association that said 80% of active and passive job seekers are going to be looking for a job change in the next 12 months. That's staggering. 80% is staggering, right?
Yeah.
So, that's what we're hearing on the other side. So we interview candidates all day long that are looking to get back into the workforce.
Right.
And what they're saying and the reasons they're leaving is the employers are maybe not offering flexibility. They need me to come back into the workforce. I'm not ready to come back to the, into an office type of a situation.
Sure.
Maybe due to the pandemic or maybe life changes with their family. They need to have some flexibility.
Right.
So I think flexibility is the number one thing that's really going to change when we're looking to bring employees back, and the employers that are the most flexible are going to gain the momentum of the best talent.
That makes a lot of sense, and I can see why that would work on both sides of the equation there.
Definitely.
Let's talk about the demographic of what you work with. Are you working with more people right out of college? Are you working with, career changers? Are you working with people, all the above?
Yeah,
what does that
all
look
of
like?
the above. So I would say really the breakdown is very different. Demographics, we have people coming right out of school. We have lots of people that are women. I mean, women have been downsized out of the workforce in droves. Statistics, the She Session, it's hit, because they are the ones who pulled back during the pandemic and decided to stay home with their families. So a lot of those now are kind of regrouping, and people are having COVID epiphanies. I mean, they're deciding, I don't want to do this job anymore. I want to do this kind of a job. So it's career changers, it's middle management people, and it's also people kind of towards the end of their career that maybe have retired, but they want an encore career. They might be looking for something. I mean, we do direct hire placement, we do temporary job placements for projects, and then we do temp to hire. So a lot of those folks that are maybe the over 60 group, are really looking for just some project work. They might want to do something, a couple months at a time or a couple weeks at a time, or some part-time work. And employers have at their disposal some really great talent. And I know everybody's screaming, I can't find people, I can't find people. And you look at Dunkin' Donuts and they have, $15 an hour they're paying. So the other thing that is an advantage to job seekers now, it is the best time to be looking for a job. I mean, you have the trifecta. Employers need people. The wages are up. And those that are doing really well are offering flexibility. So as a job seeker, there's no better time to get back into the workforce than there is right now.
Yeah, and I've even seen signing bonuses from a wide range of companies, not just your service-oriented companies, but big companies.
Big companies,
offering that.
Yeah, we just did a placement. We placed somebody $60,000 a year for an administrative project role with a $5,000 sign-on bonus.
Right.
It's not unusual. So I think people that are looking for a job it is the best time to be looking for a job.
Now, I know you probably see all roles, but are you still seeing the bulk of this is full-time, or do you still get a lot of part-time requests in looking at that? So you said project work, but how does that look?
So project work means, an employer might need somebody for an 8-week leave of absence or a 12-week leave of absence, or they have a special project. And what's happened with the pandemic is employers have scaled back so lean that now they're busy. Some employers like myself, we're super busy. So I was happy to secure my interns back in January, and had them working really hard, come the summer. So, projects have ramped up, companies have ramped up. So to bring somebody in just to kind of, keep the wheels on the bus as things get busier, they might not be ready to hire full time. So they'll bring in contractors and kind of see if, this person really fits into our work, fits into the culture. Is it what we need? Can they work from home? And some employers can't. They have to have employees that are in the office. And then there's a lot of talk about the COVID vaccines. What does it look like? Are we wearing masks? Are we not wearing masks? What are those policies? We have employers requesting from us from time to time, please send somebody in that's COVID vaccinated. I mean, we work with universities and colleges and, those kinds of things. So, we have to ask if our employees can comply with those kinds of things.
Well, that was going to be one of my questions. So again, from both sides of the table, obviously it sounds like you're hearing that from employers that some of them are going to have some of those circumstances. But I'm assuming you're seeing employees come in and say, hey, I want to go with either a safe company, or hey, I don't really care, I'll go to a company, whatever. So I'm sure you're fielding all of those questions.
Yeah, there's a lot of new pre-screening questions that we ask, regarding an employee and what kind of availability and flexibility they have around that. Some smaller employers have the vaccine mandate, and some other employers don't have that. And and we're also finding a lot of changes. I was just mentioning earlier about the way in which we train people. So we have a client that will bring people in to be trained for customer service work, a small group, and then they'll be sending them home with their laptops and their PCs and their computers to work from home. And people were going to be sending people back in September, but now, with the new Delta variants, people are now posting that maybe you're coming back in January. So employers are now starting to kind of really rethink about how they're going to bring people back to work, what it's going to look like, and how they're going to the onboarding. Jake, we could talk about the onboarding.
I'm sure.
That has changed so much nowadays.
I can't even
Everything's
imagine.
electronic.
I want to go back to something you kind of mentioned before, especially in the female perspective of a lot of the women not had to, but maybe chose to or had to. Well, whatever the circumstances may be.
The schools were closed, right?
Right. So a lot of them stayed home. So whether it's male or female, but I know it is probably dominantly female in that position, what does that look like now that they have this gap in their resume? Are employers open to, hey, I had to stay home and do what I had to do?
Yeah,
so that's okay.
It's so accepted. I'm probably 4 out of every 5 resumes I look at have a COVID, they're out because of COVID.
Right.
They were laid off.
Right. So employers are understanding of that, and, of course, probably picking up some additional, values at home and being able to, responsibilities and being able to equate them right into the workforce probably helped.
But I think the other thing that's important too, for those folks, employers are starting to ask the questions, what did you do during the pandemic?
Sure.
Were you investing in LinkedIn Learning? Were you upgrading your skills? Did you do different things? So, you can add value to your resume as a job seeker by writing down some of those professional development things that you did during the time of COVID.
Right. So these people that you also mentioned something else along those same lines, that somebody might say, okay, well, I had this old career or this old position, I'm looking for something totally different.
Career changers.
What would be your advice to people that, maybe testing out the water might be the right phrase, or probably the closest that I could get?
Work your networks. I mean, work your networks, contact people, go to a staffing agency, find somebody that can try to help you leverage your networks, and talk to people that are in that field. And because we have these applicant tracking systems for your resume now, sometimes it's really hard for job seekers to get noticed just by sending a resume through Indeed or Career Builder or Zip. And that's where the advantage of a staffing firm comes in, because we act as your advocate. So when you come to the staffing firm, we find out about you and your skill set and what you want to do and how you want to make some changes. And then we have relationships with employers that are hiring managers, and we can be your advocate, and we can kind of sell you sometimes a little bit better, and get you seen, where sometimes, people think I'm looking for a job and I'm sitting at a computer and 5 hours a day I'm sending my resume through Indeed. That is really passive job seeking. That is not active job seeking. Active job seeking is getting out, volunteering, working your networks, talking to a staffing agency, going a little bit further rather than just sending your resume.
Right. That was going to be one of my questions of, if I'm an employer and employee, why would I use a Monarch Staffing? Why not just use Indeed? But that sounds like that's just one piece of the puzzle. There's a lot more that has to be done if you want to, I guess, at least get the job that you're looking for.
Right. Yeah, you got to work your networks. I mean, I always say that your networks are equal your net worth. That's what I tell my kids all the time.
That makes a lot of sense. So what about people that are still juggling the pandemic life? So we talked about, the saying, okay, 100% I was at home, but now I'm ready to get back. What about those people that are still in the middle that say, I want to get back, I want to do something, I just don't have the capacity to fully do that? Are employers still looking for that? And what's your advice to employees that are in that position?
Yeah, I mean, even the way the job postings are on the back end through Indeed and Career Builder and some of the portals that we use when we do post some of our jobs, they actually have a tab now that says remote work from home tab. So, those jobs, and maybe that is what you need to look for, is you kind of search remote from home, work from home kinds of positions to try to help you kind of bridge the gap to get back into the workforce. Or it might be a hybrid role. If you have a little bit of flexibility and you can maybe come into an office a couple days a week and then work from home a few days a week, maybe that's an opportunity. But the way you go about searching for those kinds of jobs might look a little different.
Sure.
Yeah.
You also mentioned, which I think is a huge helpful piece to people, is that you do help with resumes as well as coaching for interviews.
Absolutely.
Can you talk a little bit about both of those? Maybe start with the resume and then talk about how you actually coach for the interview?
Yeah, so on the resume, when I get a resume and I coach people that, resumes are scanned by recruiters within 7 seconds. So that's all coming up on a screen, and we read resumes across and down. So for job seekers that are out there that are looking, have all your dates on the right-hand side, just makes the job, the employer a lot easier to find you. So that's really a tip. And then, put the best of you at the top of your resume. I mean, if you've worked in a job where I interviewed a lady who didn't miss a day of work in 7 years, but it wasn't anywhere on her resume until I asked her to say, share with me one of the best attributes about yourself. She said, I never missed a day of work in 7 years. So I went back and called her boss and verified it. And we put it right at the top of her resume. And, within 2 weeks, she got a job. So, you got to look at what are the great things that your bosses and supervisors have said about you and bring that to the top. Because remember, when you're looking for a job, you're solving a problem for an employer. And the more you can articulate that as a job seeker, the easier it is going to be able to get your resume seen quickly. And I call it the bait on the hook. The top 30 seconds, kind of your elevator speech, right? What can you do for me? And this is what I've done for my prior employer. And then they'll have an opportunity to scroll down and to read the rest of you. But don't put all of your best skills at the bottom of your resume. Put your highlights and your key accomplishments at the top of your resume is my best advice for job seekers.
And I'm sure that covers a lot of key things, but I'm sure there's so many other tips and tricks that you have when it comes to resumes that, again, I see this as a huge value add to people that are coming to you looking for jobs. What about the interview process?
Yeah, the interview has changed now, right? Yeah. So, we did the phone screens and then we had people come in for interviews. Now it's all about a video interview. I can't tell you the last time I sat down, face to face with somebody. So we're on Zoom, we're on Teams, we're all doing video interviews. So, that is important for a job seeker because it's their digital presence, right? How they show up. So, do they have the cat and the dog jumping behind them? Is there light? My very first Zoom interview, I got seasick because I'm that kind of a person, and the person's camera screen was going back and forth. She was holding. So finally, after towards the end of the interview, I said to her, I said, I just got to ask you a quick question. Are you holding your phone? And she said, yes. I said, please, can you put it in a stand? I need the Dramamine.
Right,
but
right.
those little things are kind of really important. Things that you don't think about, or we didn't think about, pre-pandemic here. How are you showing up, making sure the lighting's great, the phone or the laptop is in a sturdy position, and you have your notes. And I think interviewers today make accommodations, and they understand that you're in your home. But I think as a job seeker, that you have to show up for the interview as if you would show up as if you were working there. That the positive mindset. We give an interview prep to our candidates, and we tell everybody, get your power pose on, that mindset, and be positive. And for those that find interviewing intimidating, and it is intimidating, it can be grueling. To really, you can have your notes there, and the camera kind of, it's a little bit easier for people, I think. I've found over the past 18 months that it might be a little shyer in an interview to actually shine a brighter light on them than rather coming in person. It doesn't seem as intimidating. So I think for those job seekers that are a little shy about interviewing, this is an advantage to take advantage of, being on a camera. And you can have your notes and your questions and things like that are in. And I always tell job seekers that it's really important that you close your interview at the end. And by that, I mean, ask if there's further consideration for the job, and be ready to answer questions. A lot of reasons why employers or job hiring managers will tell us that they didn't even move forward is that when I asked at the end, do you have any questions for me? The candidate basically said, no, everything's okay. But that shows a lack of interest. So job seekers that are out there, get your questions ready, be ready, ask some things, do your research on the company. And then the other thing that you have to really be careful as a job seeker is your digital online presence. Typically, employers are looking. They're looking on LinkedIn.
Sure.
There's applicant tracking systems out there, Jake, that when you put in a candidate's name, all of their social media comes up on the other side.
Right.
So they're looking at their Facebook, their Instagram, their everything. So if you're in job seeking mode, clean up your digital presence and make sure it is your positive self out there. And LinkedIn's a big way to, even as you're looking for a job, to comment, not just put your resume out there, but comment to other companies and people that are looking for people to come into work. I mean, you can make a big presence for yourself. You have an opportunity to shine.
Yeah, I sounds like you hit the nail right on the head. I think I agree with you. There's probably a lot of companies out there that do have that little bit of leeway, that understand people are in tougher situations than they were in the past. But we still have to remember that this is a competitive job situation.
It's a job.
Yes.
Yeah, it's competitive.
You're not the only one interviewing. There's probably other people out there that want the job just as bad as you do. So you make great points. What are the top skills that you see employers looking for? So you say put your best at the top, but are there some of those keywords and some of those skills that you see kind of in and out every day?
I mean,
we
do a lot on the office side of the house. So, critical thinking skills, problem solving skills, being resourceful, and we ask those kinds of questions from job seekers. Tell me about a time that you were resourceful. Talk to me about a situation where you had to solve a problem. How do you handle competing priorities for a job? Employers are going to ask behavioral interviewing questions.
Sure.
So those kinds of questions are important for an employer. They want to see that, especially, can you work on your own kind of thing. So how resourceful are you? That's really, really important now in today's world because you're working from home. So that is important. But if you're on the industrial side of the market, there's a big gap. Contractors are looking for employers. They can't find, or employees, they can't find people to work.
Absolutely.
So the trades are really, really hurting. Hospitality is hurting. People that are even medical assistants. I mean, those fields, nursing's going to be growing. So those fields are really going to be taking off. And I have to tell you, I mean, there's going to be jobs 5 and 10 years from now that we don't even know exist today. Just because of AI, the way things are changing, the way companies are working differently. A lot of analytical jobs, data analyst positions we see coming to light. They're looking for college grads that can bring new ideas. I think employers that are going to really make it and really grow are not of the mindset, if it's not broken, don't fix it. They're of the mindset, break it, fix it, and figure out how to do it better. And I think the same thing has to go with the candidates that are looking. Bring those bright ideas and bring those ideas.
Well, we've seen this pandemic already bring in different jobs and sectors and companies that we never would have dreamed of would exist before. So I can only imagine with the advances in technology, like you said, what could be on the forefront here in the next decade.
Yeah, we don't even know what our kids are going to be working in because who knows what that's going to look like.
Right,
Your little
right.
ones, especially.
Exactly.
Yep.
So if we have, if you have clientele, employees, prospective employees that are looking for positions and they have some of these skills, but maybe they don't know where they're going. They don't know what industry they want to be in. Do you help guide them? Do you kind of match them up with certain?
Yes. I mean, we work very closely with an organization at Delaware County Community College called New Choices.
Okay.
And that organization is free. So if you're undecided and not quite sure which way to go, we suggest that our candidates go visit New Choices under Delaware County Community College. And they have some assessments there, Jake. Well, they will give you kind of like, what color is your parachute kind of thing, and do some assessments with you to figure out, where are your best skills lie. Because, here's the thing, you're always going to, get to the finish line faster or enjoy that journey quicker if you love what you do and if you play to your strengths. Now, I'm not one to say don't improve on your weaknesses, but if you play to your strengths, for me, for an example, I thought I was going to be a computer programmer. I mean, I went to Delaware County for 2 years, then to Westchester, but I got my first job out of college thinking I was going to be a computer programmer. Well, they put me in a room, heads down, trying to find a program code. I just yapped the whole time. I thought I was going to get fired day 2 until my boss, my boss pulled me out and said, no, you go sit as the receptionist in the front office and you coordinate everything. And I'm like, oh, I guess I shouldn't be doing that. And, went to school for management and marketing and sales and kinds of things. So, when you play to your strengths, my mom always said, you never work a day in your life. So trying to find out what your strengths are is really going to help you as a job seeker for sure.
That's great. So if I'm out there as somebody who is either unemployed right now because of the pandemic, or maybe I am employed but I'm not happy, give me a checklist. What's kind of my first thing I should be doing if I'm ready to make a move? I just don't know where to start.
Right.
I don't know what to do.
I would say the top things you want to do is number one, put a professional profile on LinkedIn.
Okay.
That's where a lot of job candidates, employers go to find people. Get a resume together. So we help with resume writing. So if you're interested, you can send your resume to hireme@monarchstaffing.com, and we can take a look at your resume and help guide you with that. And then number 3 is make sure your digital presence is really cleaned up if you're getting ready to be in job seeking mode, because employers are going to look. And then your mindset, kind of focus, where you think you want to go, because they're, like I said, people have had COVID pandemic, epiphanies here.
Absolutely.
So they're making changes. Yeah. Have a little bit of guidance if you can.
Are there right or wrong people that should and should not be using a staffing company? I mean, is there people out there or no?
No, I mean, staffing companies are really a great way to get into the mix, whether you're industrial or whether you're looking for marketing. And a lot of them have segments, there's some are really specific for accounting and finance. We kind of really do a general administrative and sales and marketing and human resources.
Okay.
But, you can find niche markets to try to get, because a lot of times they'll get you seen a lot quicker.
Right.
They really will. So it's an opportunity.
Absolutely. So anybody can reach out to you.
Oh, sure. Absolutely. Yeah. And if I don't have the connection, I'll connect them.
Right.
Absolutely.
That's great. What about on the employer side? What size employers are you guys really working with on your side?
So typically mid-size, for maybe a couple hundred employees to even maybe a couple thousand employees, right in there. We're in the Philadelphia regional market, the Tri-County area. So we're really kind of in that mid-market. We've helped, I think, 11,000 job seekers find jobs. I've run some numbers and helped over 1,000 companies, find employees. And then 2, if you're really unsure of what you want to do, but you need to be working in between while you're trying to figure out what you want to do, if you're unemployed, you can get back into the workforce doing some temp work, doing some project work, just because sometimes it's not the job that you're doing, Jake, but it's the people you meet along the way that really make a difference in your career.
Absolutely.
That's why I tell people that all the time.
So I'm assuming that you're seeing that culture is the number one thing that we're going to see going forward. I know you used the word flexibility, but the culture has to probably be there for this to fit and make sense.
Yeah, it has to. And you know what, too? The culture can be, a little different. It's going to be different from company to company, but it also is going to be different from department to department.
Sure.
Because, different managers manage differently. So what works for you and one manager might not work for you and another manager. I mean, that's the number one reason why usually people leave, is because they just can't get along with their manager. That's top of the line. But I think as they're looking for a job, the flexibility part and the way employers portray, what they offer, because no longer are they able to say sometimes, here's the gym, here's the the free lunches.
Right.
They have things differently. I mean, my
Right.
my HR clients are even changing the way they onboard people. They're sending them a welcome kit instead of just a laptop in a box.
Right.
What does that look like? And how are they onboarding them virtually?
Yeah.
It is hard for an employer to create culture, when a different culture or their culture, when you're sitting in your own four walls.
Absolutely.
So
It's a tough
doing fun
proposition.
things like, happy hour at Monarch, we have something called the CFO. It's our Chief Fun Officer. So, every
you
month
go.
we try to plan some kind of a fun thing that's going.
That's
So,
great.
not only just to get to know your employees and what the work they're doing, but, we're opening up into personal and private lives.
Right.
So I think it's really important there too. And then also with, the diversity and inclusion and equity, that is really important. People need to feel included.
Has to be, yeah.
And a lot of employers nowadays, have, groups for that to make people feel, included in. And it has to be part of what we're doing moving forward. We have to just really be keen on all of those things.
I think those are all huge aspects of, again, both the employee and the employer side.
Mm-hmm.
Laura, you've given us such a vast amount of, I think, great information here, and I think a lot of people are going to get benefit out of hearing this, and hopefully they will contact you at
great.
Monarch Staffing. So we will absolutely have your contact information up on the screen, so anybody who's interested can reach out to Laura and her staff at Monarch Staffing. Again, my name is Jake Szulinski. This was Investing Sense, and I appreciate you being with us today, and I look forward to seeing you next time. Thank you.
Thank you, Jake.